Hey guys, my name is Katie and I actually loved Joker Folie A Deux. So if you'll hear me out, I want to tell you why. First of all, I want to say there's a lot to not like about this movie, so I completely understand if you hated it. There is no shame in that. I think there's a lot of issues with the pacing in this movie, and not giving the audience a lot to hold on to while it's asking you to wait and grudge through a lot of long, dim scenes. I think most of the musical numbers probably need to be 30 to 40 seconds, if not longer, cut out of there. I understand why they do the full length of song to kind of like emphasize the point, but God, some of those are like, I feel like we've achieved the point here. I don't feel like we need to listen to any more of this. I think we can move on. I wish Lady Gaga was in it more. They kind of promoted this as a dual starring film, and it really didn't feel like it. It felt like she took the back seat to Joaquin the entire time, which I understand, right? It's Joker, but it's also Folie A Deux, so I expected to be more of the duh, and there wasn't, and so that was a little sad to me. However, there's so much about this movie I absolutely loved. I think the acting performances were absolutely incredible from pretty much everybody on the board. I don't think there was a weak actor in this link, especially Joaquin carrying this film on his back. There's not a moment I don't enjoy seeing him play Arthur Fleck at all. I love it. And I especially loved the interrogation scene with Puddles near the end. He was finally evolving into this Joker that like people have been begging to see him in, that we haven't really seen since he was live with Murray in the last film. So that was like the peak of the movie for me. I was so excited. And I think that's where this film loses people. I think people really wanted that to be the whole film. I think people really wanted to see Arthur Fleck as Joker this whole film. But I think that's the whole point, is that he is not Joker. He just kind of spurred the idea of the Joker, right? The idea that this villain is bigger than the person that began it, and the evil surrounding is more than just the root of the cause, and that he was never really a bad person. He was a person treated badly by the system. Now, I'm not saying murder is okay. I'm not trying to justify his actions, but I think they allude to what I think is the overall thesis for this pair of movies in the first film. It's like, this whole time I thought my life was a comedy. Turns out it's a fucking tragedy, baby. It is. It's a tragedy. The whole point is we don't get to see him succeed. We don't get to see him become this character that we want. We don't get to see him fulfill this arc that will be satisfying to the audience. It's a tragedy. We never get that completion. It's completely dissatisfactory. Now, I heard a lot of really interesting discourse. Why would Todd Phillips make this movie? Who is this movie for? If it's not for fans of the Joker, then who is this movie for? I'm going to tell you it's for me, okay? My favorite, I'm an absolute whore for A24, right? These slow burn dramas where pretty much nothing happens the entire time. And I'm just there for the scenery, the production design, the performances in this whole piece of fucking nothing until it builds to something. And that's what this movie is. I mean, I fucking eat it up. It's essentially what it feels like, a courtroom psychological thriller with musical elements. And to me, that's amazing. That's what I want. That's what I love. Did I wish I saw more action in this movie? Sure. But that's also not the movie they told us they were going to make. He was very upfront that this movie would be different tonally, that it was going to be more of a thriller, that it was going to be a musical. And I think people taking issue with the form of this movie, I understand, but I don't think it's productive. Because just because a movie isn't what you wanted it to be, doesn't mean it's necessarily bad. I don't think that's the thing that makes this movie bad or unenjoyable for people. I understand why people don't like music and why people wouldn't enjoy that in terms of this movie and seeing this character flesh out. I'm not the person to talk to about that. I have a minor in musical theater. Of course I want to see musical numbers. I actually think Joaquin Phoenix did an amazing job with the singing. I thought he was more than passable. I thought it was enjoyable. And if you haven't listened to Lady Gaga's counterpart or album Harlequin, it's awesome. It's dope. I really enjoyed, and this is one of my biggest grits with the movie, okay? Which is going to piss people off because it's stupid. But we shared several songs with the first movie. We hear That's Life again, pretty much. I feel like in the first act of the film, we hear it again. Um, and it's like, I wanted to hear more choices because I thought the soundtrack, along with the score for the first film, was fantastic. And this one, I did enjoy the soundtrack, but I wish there was less overlap, right? Like, I feel like we heard World on a String like 1,000 times. And I love that song. I love Sinatra. You can ask Louis. Louis loves Sinatra. And that's part of what I loved is I loved the soundtrack of songs that I personally love. But there was a lot of repetition in terms of musical themes. Now, I think a lot of this goes back to this delusion that they're in. They're not really able to think forward because they're trapped in this situation of how the fuck do we move out? We're literally trapped in a prison, right? Trapped in the prison of their own mind, whatever. It's an artistic choice. I understand it. But I wish there was more because I loved every single song they chose to be on the soundtrack. Specifically, I loved the song Joaquin Say, the Joker, that whole scene in the courtroom, the violence. I like that whole scene was fucking brilliant, in my opinion. And I loved it. I totally wish that was the whole movie. Because that's what I want. You want to see Arthur Fleck succeed into this villain. Like, that's what the audience wants. That's why I think it's so fucking cool that Todd Phillips is openly cucking the entire audience of what they want. It's kind of badass. Like, audience, fuck you. This is what actually happens. This is a lesson. This is about, how society neglects people with mental health issues and treats them and takes them into a ward of the system, and the system doesn't care about them. And the prison system, which is supposed to be a system of reform, actually isn't. And it's really meant to serve the government and not helping people at all. And it's a tragedy. It's kind of awesome. I really respect him for that. I did like the first film I love emotionally. Do I think it's the best film of all time? No. No, I don't. Of course not. I do enjoy it though. I think I just am such a fan of the production design, the soundtrack, their performances. I put it on as a comfort movie a lot. Like I just find myself going to rewatch it. But it does lose me in the second act, right? Same thing with this movie. This movie loses me in the second act. Because it's really, really begging you to drag along the whole time. It's begging you to drag along for this payoff. And you keep thinking, well, fuck, hey, the fucking bomb exploded. Now this is where we're going to get this moment of he finally is going to get to go on and he's asking you to move forward with him. And if you don't like the ending, this whole movie feels like a massive fuck you. It does. I was so sad to see Arthur Fleck die because the whole buy-in of these movies is if you're not rooting for him, you're not going to like these movies. There's no reason for you to watch. So it does. It feels like a stab in the back to the audience to say, fuck you. I don't give a shit about you. Everything that you've taken the time for, it's not even worth it because he's gone. He's dead. And that makes me sad, mostly because seeing him evolve into the Joker that we kind of see him as in the courtroom, this persona that he takes on, that he could be in this shared delusion, it's fucking great. Would I love to see a whole movie of him as the Joker? Fucking of course. Do I wish that's what this movie was? A little bit. But it's not. And that's okay. They never said that was going to be this movie. And even in the trailers, it doesn't even feel like that's the movie we were going to get. But it does make me sad that there's no potential to move forward with that. Real quick, I do want to touch on, everybody's talking about the whole idea that the Joker is the character that actually stabbed him in the back. But I do urge you to look into the history of the character and about how sometimes the Joker can be interpreted as more of a concept rather than just one person, i.e. even the Dark Knight, right? All of Joker's henchmen robbing the bank, right? I mean, they are the Joker too, right? Obviously, they're not the Joker, but it is their actions and their morals that make them that group and that unified idea that something is wrong. We're trying to overthrow the system that is in place because the system is horrible, which is true, but Anyways, I urge you to take a look at that, and I urge you to really rewatch the first movie and take a think of yourself if Arthur Fleck was really ever meant to be the Joker. I don't know. Just food for thought. I know it pisses people off. I really like this movie. I really did, and I can't help it. And you know what? I'm gonna go fucking see it again. But if you like this content, stick around, give us a like, a follow, subscribe here on Geek Gourmet. Coming up soon, you're gonna hear some more movie reviews, potentially about some horror movies coming out this month. And check out my buddies Louis' gaming videos and everything amazing. And yeah, the Joker is me. Woo!